help you feel that will help you feel confident and help you have a clear plan on how you might proceed. So all of our work is going to be centered on that. I've created quite a few documents along the way, but ultimately the one thing I want you to have access to is going to be a workbook that goes along with my deck. So there'll be some times and places for you to be able to capture notes. The way I set it up, you can type right in, or if you're like me, maybe just write some notes, old school paper and pencil as we go. So I'm going to ask that I get that in the chat for you real quick. And I am going to get us started with our agenda here in just a second. But before I do, one of the things that is really important to me is to get the information for who you are. And so one of the things that we tried in the past was polls. And polls were wonderful until Zoom decided they didn't want to do polls. What Zoom has decided they would like to do now is to create surveys. So what I'm going to ask you to do is very much old school. I'm going to share my screen and ask you to chat in the answers to the questions that I present so I can know how old your scholars are and where you are right now. That allows me to really provide you with a customized type situation that will be really helpful to you and help me make adjustments. So let me find it. It was a little bit of a trick for all of us, but we hammered it before you got here. So I just want to confirm that you can see my screen with the questions in the screen. Yes? All right, if you would, please, guys, I'm just going to call this A, B, C, and D. Real quick, this would be incredibly helpful for me. Thank you. Scholar 16. I know most of you should be in Colorado Springs. Oh, it's going to be everybody. Oh, that's why I really wanted to make sure I covered all the age ranges. Okay, beautiful. So I do have a wide range of elementary, middle, and high school parents here today. So thank you very much for that. And then let me know for the second question, do you have a plan? 1, do you need some help? 2, or you're not sure where to begin? 3. And I'm going to scroll through that. Oh, good. A couple people. We've got different people with plans, kind of all over the place in that particular realm as well. Thank you so much for playing along. It would have been so much nicer to have a poll, but you know, you have to be versatile and flexible. So this is very, very helpful, and it will help me customize our session tonight. Basically, we have kids of all ages. Your scholars are throughout the whole spectrum, and we have folks who are really throughout the whole place of planning and preparation. So good news is that I planned for all of that. So in the chat, I went ahead and put the link to your workbook, and we'll ask that you go ahead and make a copy so that you have that available to use as you see fit as we do our work or after the fact. And now we'll get into our agenda. So Kathy Holman, you happen to be at the top of my screen. Can you confirm for me that you were able to get the link to the workbook?
Yes, I just got it and I'm scrolling through it now to see if I can read it.
Okay, I see you're on there, and here's what I see. You should have gotten a link that forced you to make a copy, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to check this.
Yeah,
So,
it said it gave me that option, so I did that.
okay, because I see one person is in on mine, and I didn't want us to have that, you know, everybody's on the same page kind of nightmare. I've had that in the past. Okay, well, beautiful. If you were able to make a copy, then I'm going to assume everyone else could as well. And we are a large group. Thank you, everybody, for confirming. And I'm excited to get started. So here's what we're going to do tonight. Like I said earlier, it's going to be a hands-on practical type of session tonight. We're going to get into some knowledge content, things you may or may not know already about Summer Slide. We'll move into some executive functioning and how that all connects for summer. Take a look at some of the data you already have and hopefully clear up some of the confusion. The big part is for those of you that are still mid-range or not sure, help you get some guidance on what will work, what to avoid. We'll take a break. And then when we come back from break, we're really going to pull it apart and begin to strongly build our summer plan. And I'm going to help build through that and give you guidance and some support. And so it'd be fun to do that and even take a look at how are you going to schedule your time and how are you going to track your time. So here we go. I've already been introduced. And so I do know that sometimes it's important for people to know who you are and certainly to know what you've accomplished. And yes, I've won a lot of awards, but truthfully, the most important thing I've ever done is made a difference in a kid's life. I'm very relationship driven, and I didn't see any of you in the chat that I have done work with your students or your scholars, but I've been working with Parents Challenge a long time, and I absolutely love being able to help kids and families figure out where they want to go and how their kids learn best. So I'm happy to be here and ready to get into it. So if you're following along in your workbook, I believe that this page also is available to you in just a different format. So they talk about Summer Slide, and there's a lot of things that as a long-term classroom teacher and principal, as well as tutoring owner and things like that, that I have learned that you as parents might find very valuable. One of those is just defining what the terms mean. The academic skill decline, the forgetting curve, why they call it a slide, and what core areas are most impacted. So we know that students will typically lose a significant amount of content, and we're going to go into taking a look at which areas and which ages tend to be hit the hardest. So that could be advantageous to help you plan. They do slide backward, and I think that figuring out your plan is going to be very important in terms of where they are now, so that anything they're already behind in, you might be able to double up on that content and really push forward in the summer. So this is what it looks like, the forgetting curve, as they call it. So I'm able to lose all of the content all the way through past 1 month. So at this point, I have regressed almost 2 grade levels because that content is not forefront in my mind. And it is very serious and very impactful. But I do want you to see at the bottom, literally, the key insight is 2 to 3 hours per week, 2 to 3 hours. That's it. Can really help stop this and keep this drop from happening. So it's not a huge commitment on your part. Like you may be thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to do summer school? You don't have to. And I bet some of you are homeschoolers. And so you know that there are many ways to do this with a 2 to 3 hour window per week where you can really impact and change this trajectory. So I mentioned that there are key areas that are important for us to think about. And so one strategy we will talk about is reading, for sure. I'm a literacy specialist and I love reading. So something you may not think about is the stamina. Many students may have the skills, but they get tired very early. And so working on some things that are going to help your student or your scholar build stamina and vocabulary is going to be important. In the world we live in today, you would think that writing is not important. However, turns out writing is more important now because those communication skills and those prompt engineering and all of those things they're going to need to be able to do and communicate, whether it's typing or writing, are going to be more important than ever. Math is the one area that gets hit the hardest, and in my opinion, is one of the easiest ones to keep active and to keep going. You may not have thought about, especially if your students are in a private, public, charter, more of a traditional school model, that disruption in the routines, the transitions, you may have seen it this week, not yet, but that whole part of their life is very important. We call it executive functioning. That whole part really gets impacted, and it will be an important part of how we think about planning. And of course, that focus. So you can see here, with all of the main skills, reading, focus, routines, math, and writing, this is where they leave, and this is where they are when they come back. So the numbers are important, and I think that this one is probably the most important one for anyone here today, is that math decline. Elementary students are the ones that are most significantly impacted. It definitely drops more significantly than reading, 70 to 78%. 30% of the learning that they actually did during the school year is gone. So they are at a deficit of about 2.6 months when they come back. And so teachers in the fall have 2.5 months of content to rebuild. And so that's where they talk about that loss. I have lost 2.5 months of content, and my grade levels have dropped significantly. The part that surprised me, and I think you'll be surprised as well, is I am an executive functioning specialist. I recently got my ADHD coaching certification this year, and I've been doing a lot of work around this. And so I thought through this, and I couldn't believe what I found. It actually says that in those habits, routines, working memory, executive functioning, it's impacted twice as hard as academics. And what ends up happening without that routine, structure, support, kids have higher anxiety. They definitely, you get on the increased screen time, and they get emotionally dysregulated. So that may not be something you were thinking about when you came to the session tonight, but that would probably want to be one of the most important things I'd like you to leave with, is that this part of your scholar's life is going to be impacted twice as much. So when we put our plan and things together, I've got some ideas that you can incorporate to try to keep those pieces in place as well. And so I'm certain, I've worked with kids for 30 years, thousands of them. And so starting tasks and staying focused, organizing their thinking is going to definitely be impacted. That's why I said the writing is going to be critical. And of course, finishing what they start without accountability can be a big trick, especially since you are not threatening them with a grade. I hope you're not, because you're supposed to have fun while you're doing this together. So let's look at the executive functioning connection, because this is something that I really believe can be supported and encouraged. And there are many ways for us to find out where the gaps are and then also fill them in. So I'm just going to ask you guys if you know how to use the reactions on your panel to give me some thumbs up if you recognize this in yourself, perhaps, or your child. Avoiding simple tasks. Do you have the option to do the reactions in your bar? I don't know how that works. Yep, there they are. I see it on your own background. Okay, great. Thumbs up saying, I don't know what to do. My ADHD coaching has taken a whole new level on that twist with kids. Starting but not finishing. Needing constant reminders. I should probably see thumbs up on just about everybody's screen for this one. I'm not sure everybody has them because I'm not seeing a lot of interaction on that. And getting overwhelmed quickly. Those are some of those things that typically show up, and I see a lot of folks in the chat instead. All right. Great. All right. Beautiful, guys. Thank you. I thought so. I didn't see it on your screen. So I was like, my goodness, I don't know. So we are in communication. And yes, those are the things I see with students all the time. And those are those things that we call executive functioning. Well, they're life skills and they're really important ones. And it's not even about IQ. And I think that's the thing I want to draw your attention to, is that it is not an IQ or an intellect. It really is about the actual brain and how each individual brain manages tasks, attention, and effort. And so I want to get into that with you today and take a look at some of it. And the funnest way I could think to do that was for us to do a quick Kahoot to take a look at, well, is this an academic skill or is this an executive functioning skill? So I'm going to launch it. No, I'm not going to launch it there. I'm going to launch it over here somewhere. Let's see if I can get there. And it should come up with a QR for you to scan, and it will give us a game pin. So once it loads here, I'm going to start it. And let's see what we get. All right. So the QR code is here at the top. If you'd like to scan that and play along, I will see your name here. And we'll see effort or not is the name of this particular activity. All right, I'll give about 20 more seconds. I know sometimes it's a little weird with the QR and the pins, but I see a lot of you guys are getting in. And I want to make sure, in case you've never played, the key piece. On your phone, you'll have 4 different colors and symbols that correspond with the answers. So getting them right is important, but getting them right first is even just as important. So the scores and winning on the podium has to do with both accuracy and speed. So just in case you didn't know, and you're competitive like I am, I wanted to cue you up for success. Student reads well, but can't explain it. Why? All right, so now we see our answers. We've got 5 people thought it was skill, 2 people said effort, 8 people said executive functioning, and 1 said motivation. And you know what? That's the craziest part of all. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what exactly is going on and why. But I am a literacy specialist, and there are definitely components to executive functioning, if you can read well, that play a big part on why you can't explain it. All right, ready for number 2? Here we go. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this part. I haven't played in a while. So Erica P is in the lead, and Erica with the moons and the hearts is right behind. Okay. Good job, everybody, because this is not an easy one. Knows math, but works very slowly. Okay, so this time we still have a split because this is, again, this is internal behavior. You can't exactly put your finger on it, but most of you did agree that if you knew it, but you were just slow, that most likely was executive functioning. It could be skill, but it did say that you knew the math. So again, good job. Let's see how it played out here in the scoring. All right, it's still looking great. People are doing really good. And those are our top 5 for right now. Here we go. Question 3. I don't know what to do. So I'm surprised that you all chose executive function, but it does make sense. In the moment and in the heat of the moment, as a teacher, as a parent, as an academic ADHD coach, I don't always stop to think, hey, slow down. And I know as a parent, some days it feels like efforts, feels lazy. Some days it feels crazy. So there are some key components of working memory that really play a part in that. All right, let's see how it came together. It's looking good. Somebody's on fire. Kathy has the highest answer streak of 3. All right, I like this. Halfway through, question 4. Starts the work but doesn't finish. Okay, so we ended up with half and half. Half executive functioning and half distraction. I didn't give it the option that both could be right, but I do believe that both could be right. So in this case, it was more thinking about the inability for the student to focus and finish, but I'm guilty as charged as well on distraction. 4 of you are on fire now. Okay, let's keep going. Question 5 of 8. Avoids writing, but talks easily. I'm interested to see how you decided. Okay, so it was across the board. And when I was putting this question together, I've seen all of those answers be true. But what I've also seen, even in conferences in high school, that academic teachers and counselors were dealing with a student who has dysgraphia and executive functioning skills. And rather than maybe lack of knowledge or lack of time, rather than taking the time to dig in there, their answer was simply, oh, well, you just don't really like it and you're not interested in it. And so as an advocate, I said, time out. Being interested in it has nothing to do with this young man's documented executive functioning and dysgraphia. And it is hard to tell, but typically you'll see very bright kids, which many of you have, can talk, but boy, when it comes to putting the writing together, that is a pretty big gap in executive functioning. Everybody's looking good. 6 of 8. Cannot decode basic words. Okay, well, in some cases, it might be true that they couldn't decode words, but almost all the time, if a student can't look at a word and put the sounds in place, but act, if they cannot do that, that's really a skill-based issue. So let's see how that went. Up 4 places to the highest climber. You guys are doing wonderful. All right, we're almost done. Hang in there, 7 of 8. forgets instructions quickly. Excellent. Executive functioning, or in my case, old age. Let's see how it came together. All right, everybody's doing great. And our last question needs constant reminders to start. And we had pretty much consensus executive functioning. Some folks, one person thought it might be effort, some person thought it might be behavior. But typically, if you need a reminder to start, your brain is not holding on to the information long enough for you to get started, even though it looks like and feels like sometimes behavior and sometimes effort. How'd you guys do? Let's see. And here we come onto the podium. Third place. We don't have a name for third place. Oh, somebody pulled it out in the end. Erica P gets the Kahoot hat. All right, you guys, great job. Oh, here we get some other places. I haven't finished it up this long. All right. Claim rewards. Oh my goodness. Well, I didn't even know anything about that. And I hope you guys found that a nice way to think about things rather than me just giving you the information. All right. So as we saw, right, most of them were not effort. This is where we, as parents, as teachers, as families, we can get stuck. It looks like motivation, but it's really, again, how is my brain managing tasks? So we are going to look at what is it that your child needs to learn. We're going to look at some data, but even more importantly, we want to take a deeper dive into learning more about how their brain is working and how they learn, as well as what they've already learned. So let me go back to that and take a look in the chat real quick. Got 3 new. Great way to learn. Awesome. Great. And I've got your screen kind of messed up. So you guys are way over here. And there you are, back where I can see you better. So I definitely like to have fun, and I definitely like to do learning in a way that's helpful. So here's kind of a graphic layout. I wouldn't have designed the slide this way, but I think it really captures things. So does it look like lack of effort, the procrastination, the careless mistakes, inconsistent performance? I bet that's one a lot of you see. Great one day, struggling the next. And that's where that confusion comes in. You hear, well, you know, I don't know what's going on. And I know as an ADHD coach, a messy backpack and desk definitely have been a highlight of the students I work with. So what I was trying to allude to earlier is these are real executive functioning challenges in most cases. So when they procrastinate, it is really that task initiation barrier. Their brain cannot struggle. It's processing too many things at once, and they can't slow it down or shift gears enough to get the task started. So I use a lot of different techniques with my students, and we do timers and body doubling and just certain things. Okay, well, we're going to do one. Here we go. So I do a lot of coaching around that task initiation, especially with my high schoolers. Working memory overload. So I mentioned it, you know, I told you to go to put that away and go get your thing and da 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 da. When you have a small amount of working memory that needs to be strengthened, you only heard the first part, if all of the first part. So that really is working memory, even though it looks like you're just not really caring. Retrieval under stress. I think all of us can relate to that. That when you are in fight or flight, or when you are stressed, your brain doesn't work or process things the same. And for students, for example, with test anxiety, right? I have anxiety. Information I know, I can't get into my brain and pull it out because there's other things going on. And of course, papers, chaos, messy stuff. They don't have the mental framework to sort the items. So that's where we always come back with planners and notebooks and checklists. And for many students and adults, myself included, those work really well. But then there are students that those are not the tools that are going to work best for them, and they resist quite harshly. So again, at the bottom line, it's not willpower, it's not behavior, it's not effort. It literally has to come back to how their brain manages tasks, attention, and effort. So we're going to hop into data and confusion, but I love to have interaction as I process information. And so I'd love to hear from a couple of people. What was surprising for you so far about the executive functioning? And I typically don't call on people, but if there is someone who would like to come off mute and just share briefly what has been surprising, I'd love to hear it, or you can put it in the chat. What was most surprising to you about the executive function?
I'll
Please.
come off of mute and say something.
Thank you.
What was surprising is I'm a family outreach coordinator at my school, and I do offer tutoring services to my clients. And I used to own my own tutoring and consulting business. So all the things that you're saying, what's surprising to me is nothing has changed over the years of the kids. I mean, I just think some of the data would get different and would get better, and it would be a different eye on it. But the way that you explain is the same way I did in telling my age back in 2004 when I started this work with doing educational services and providing resources for families. And hearing this is confirms that nothing has changed. And I was always thinking and kind of saying, well, maybe I need to talk to somebody else because it's like this is the same old, same old. Different kids, though, of course, different scenarios, different households, and different things going on. But just seeing that this is the same and it's handled the same way, the way that you're saying, it does take expertise to be able to do the work. And I just like to hear that. It's like confirmation. So that's what I was pretty much saying.
Thank you very much, Jen. And I've certainly been in the work for a long time too, and I've seen some of the same patterns. I'm interested to see real quick in the chat what some folks had to say. Yes, Erica, I definitely have seen more than I would like to about myself as a grown adult, Kyle. Yes, it definitely looks a lot more familiar than any of us might have suspected. And I think we're all more aware. It's just a society where we are more aware of ourselves and our behaviors and our patterns and trends, whereas maybe years ago people weren't as cognizant. But the thing I would like to, and I'm sure I'm singing to the choir, you guys get this, as Jen said, back in 2004, without a doubt, I had my own tutoring company then and my own charter school, and I had a whole school full of ADHD kids, and it was just a constant daily work. However, if I were to take those same kids that really were significantly impacted then and fast forward to the same age, it would be at least 3 times worse because of the technology, the dopamine, the constant interaction, the constant focus. Whereas 2004, my students could attend or focus, I'm going to be nice, 2 minutes. We could get that piece of information. I suspect that most kids who are caught up in this and have executive functioning can do 20 seconds. So it has not gotten better. It has actually, from what I've seen, and I think it would make sense to you guys too, it's gotten worse just due to the society that we're interacting with. So the other part, thank you again. I just wanted to debrief on that piece before I hopped into the data, because one other thing that I kind of have a pet peeve about, I've been in the education field forever, and I've worked with a lot of families and parents, and the answer that you get today is, well, we gave you the NWA. Why don't you know what to do? Oh, well, just go ahead and do this. Just go ahead and do that. Here's the information. Well, I'm a trained professional with a master's degree, and I actually do training on data, and it takes me time and thoughtful, deliberate practice to understand all of the data as a trained professional with a master's degree and 30 years experience. So I never want to hand off something to parents and just say, oh, here, just take a look. So part of the work tonight is to really help break apart some of that and not disrespect you as a parent and just simply hand you pieces of information. I'm sorry I get upset about that because I don't believe that it's helpful. And I want to make sure that you've got numbers, but then you also can understand them to the best of your ability and then know what to do next, again, to the best of your ability. So, oh, here's your NWA. Yep. Here's your mid-year. Yep. Here's your growth line. Here's your projectile. Oh, did you meet your growth goal? High schoolers, you know, they get the PSAT and the SAT results and it goes through and it tells you, yeah, you hear your areas for improvement. Okay. And how to write. And so then the other flippant answer always, oh, we'll just go on Khan Academy. Well, no, there needs to be some very clear steps, very clear guidance. And that's part of what we're going to get into after the break of how I can help with that. But we also have school reports in the comments. Oh, he's a nice boy. Oh, she's such a good worker. We love having her. Well, that doesn't really tell you the information you need. So again, the challenge here is going to be that data is overwhelming when they hand it to you. Even though they do try now to put it in graphs and put it in visual format, it still, in my opinion, doesn't give you the information you need in the way that you need it. Again, recommendations coming out of the NWA report. Read more. Okay. And I mean, one simple thing, you guys, that I do, my students, many of them are struggling readers. And so I said, well, listen, let me tell you how to figure out whether the book is just right for you. They don't have to go get a Lexile number. They don't have to get anything. It's called the 5-finger rule. Pick up the book. And I want you to look at the first page and I want you to start reading. And every time you don't know a word, I want you to hold up one finger. If you get to 5 fingers on the first page, that's too hard for you. Try again, right? That's a practical, usable suggestion, not read more. So my whole career has been filled with things of trying to give that practical support. And again, I can give you the data, but you as a parent need to know why are they not performing. And being a nice boy or doing all of her homework and a good girl doesn't tell you why she may be coming to you with straight A grades and then getting a test score where she's below grade level. That happens all the time. So again, data is important and I want to make sure that you get the information you still need to know. So moving beyond the scores, what do you need to know? You need to know, why is it hard for them? If there are things that are hard, how do they learn best? And what will actually help? So in your workbook or in the chat, I'd love to see which feels most true for you, that your child is doing fine. You're not sure what's going on. That would be a 2. And number 3 would be, I'm concerned about next year. So in your workbook, 1, 2, or 3, or in the chat, 1, 2, or 3, just to give me a sense of if I'm reading what I know about my experience. Good. We've got some folks that have a really strong feel that your child is doing fine. Okay. So mixed results. Good feedback. Excellent. All right. So a mix, which when we have a mixed audience, I do my very best to make sure I cater to all of our participants. And so I'm delighted to hear that many of you have a good handle that your child is doing fine or well. And then I'm here to hopefully support those of you with all of those, because even if your child is doing fine, that's why you're here, so that in the summer you can continue to enhance and improve that. So our world has changed without a doubt. And so your child may be getting great grades and not performing well on tests, or they might be performing well on tests and getting great grades, but our world has changed. And you know as well as I do that in the world your kids and all kids are getting ready to enter, the game is going to change. And I spent a lot of time thinking about what will they need and how can I best support them. And so the old formula, you get good grades, good college, good job. Well, we know that doesn't work anymore, without a doubt. 46% of repetitive jobs will be replaced. So half of the workforce that does a repetitive type job will not have an opportunity to have that type of employment anymore. So as I think about even especially any student, the things they're going to need, no matter what, are going to be strong academics, critical thinking, ability to prompt engineer, write well, capture, creativity, communication, and the executive functioning, that they can clearly manage themselves and support themselves through all of the extra things that are going to come their way, as well as leadership. So those are the key factors that I believe the shift is going to be important for us to all think about. So those grades are great and they are important, but I believe that we all want to get our kids ready for what's coming next and truthfully what's already here. So many of us have raw data. Missing piece, in some cases, it looks like, is just the insight and the understanding. And that's where we are right now. And we will be getting into a targeted summer plan based on what you had answered, on whether they're doing great, whether you're not quite sure, whether you know you need some help. So doing a deep dive assessment is really important. And so most of the students or clients that I work with ask me, hey, Lori, well, what plan should we put together? And I said, well, I need to know where your student is performing. And so there are both academic and executive functioning assessments. And what they will do is they actually pinpoint any gaps. I have many students that are getting A's who are working several grade levels below in terms of comprehension and some of their math skills. But they're such good students that they keep doing the homework. So there's their gap and it continues to grow. So assessments, specific assessments, really provide more information about executive functioning, help give a clear priority, and then those academic gaps. What I think is most interesting is finding out about the working memory, the visual spatial, and all those pieces of information and how important, critical, and valuable that part can actually be. So I do perform, like I mentioned, executive functioning assessments, and it's been new for me this year. And I have really grown and been shocked and surprised. When I perform these assessments, it will give a profile of the student specifically. Well, where are your strengths? Because it is strengths-based. All right, so visual, abstract reasoning, verbal reasoning, visual spatial, that is where you're strong. So I teach those kids to draw pictures, to do Google Notes, to do things that are going to help them. Here I see in your visual and verbal memory, there's some opportunity for us. And then where you really are struggling is going to be the speed and the flexible thinking. So those key components can be really valuable. And so on the next screen, I'm going to show a QR code that if you would like to grab this now to take a look at setting up a time with me later, you are welcome to do that. I'll also share it at the end. But for now, these are the ways that you might want to think about one of the two primary focuses. If you already know that your child might need help in reading, math, or writing, an academic assessment would be most valuable. Or if you know, like many of you said, my child is doing fine, if some of those other behaviors, task organization, working memory, if they seem to be getting in the way, then there are assessments for that. And sometimes students need months to really get a concrete, specific plan. And we'll incorporate this into our plan later, but having the current relevant data is going to be key. So here's the QR code. If you want to grab it now, please do. If not, that's fine. You'll see it at the end and in your workbook. But I will be happy to set up with Parents Challenge, especially any 15-minute kind of brainstorming, planning type idea call, just to troubleshoot with you to see, is there support I can provide? Is there an academic assessment? Is there an executive functioning? Or will the bingo board be your best bet? So I'm looking forward to that and hope I can help you. I think that those of you that are interested will find it incredibly enlightening. So now we're going to get into, well, what the heck works and what to avoid. And based on everything I've already told you, I'm not going to be flippant. I do not like that when people say, oh, just go Khan Academy. Well, let's all take a breath. Maybe I need to take a breath. It's just important to me that you get the information you need. So let's take a look at what works and what you can avoid. And I can tell you, hallelujah, you do not need to buy a workbook. Most students learn by workbooks. I mean, there's some value in it, right? Don't get me wrong, but to have a big workbook and cramming through that is not a best practice, and it is never a best practice in the summer. Having these daily battles and having it perfect, your summer learning plan has to be perfect. That is definitely not where you want to go. This is going to be key. Unstructured screen time. We already know that focus and executive functioning and those things are very, very diminished. And so staying on the screen time, just having it a free-for-all, we know. I know my son when he was about 14 or 15, before 4 o'clock in the morning, he'd still be on there in Call of Duty. I was an F. I got an F on this because I didn't structure him the way he needed. Knowing now, I certainly would have done a better, not perfect, better job of that. Or getting to the point where you've run the, students ragged with the, the sports and that. So those are the things you don't need to do, right? What you do want to do is be consistent, right? Short, consistent, 20 minutes, 4 days a week. 20 minutes, 4 days a week. Lots of voice and choice. That's what I always do. And I think when we get into some of the deeper specifics, you'll see there's a lot of fun things you can do, and you probably already know some of them. This is the one you may not have thought about, this executive functioning. Having that simple routine is going to be probably more important in many ways than even any of the academics you do, because we already saw that executive function gets hit twice as hard. So routines, and then celebrating success. That's going to be huge. So consistency, intensity, and of course, small steps win the race. Most importantly, I want you guys to start small. If you're not even sure where to start, today you should walk away with a place where you can feel comfortable at least starting small. Not getting into the perfectionism. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes as a mom, that tends to be a message that we get, and probably dads get it too. It falls apart this week. That's okay. Let's start over. I don't know about you, but I think I've started 100 new diets every Monday, half of my life. So just bring it back. We'll go again next week, guys. Everything's okay. And anything you do is going to really help with that 2.5 months worth of content loss. So anything you do is going to be good. Now, you will be getting a copy of this deck at the end. So you're going to have some of these. I just couldn't help. I had to give them all to you. It's too much, I know. But I wanted to just throw some things out here. So when you think about learning, it doesn't have to be that workbook. It can be some things in reading with audiobooks, logic puzzles in math, cooking, money, doing different things like that. Routine. This is important. Same time, same day, start and stop times for time management. Journals, making little lists, short responses, those all count for learning. They're not working in a workbook, but they definitely count. So your first strategy is going to be, yes, read for 20 minutes a day. We saw that the fluency and vocabulary are hit and impacted. And of course, we're reading and using fluency in reading, history, science, every content area, and math word problems. So it is your foundation. Literacy skills are the foundation. So it doesn't have to feel like school. Get them reading magazines, comic books, graphic novels, anime, all of those kind of things. Have them do some audio books. Those do work, but as a specialist, have them read along, not just listening. Those are two different types of comprehension. So if you can say, hey, you know what, this is a great idea. Let's go ahead. We'll definitely listen to it. Or if we're listening in the car, hey, grab the book. Let's see. Let's follow along as we read. Create a cozy ritual. I used to do that with my students all the time. We'd read under the desk. We'd read outside. We'd read in different places. And most importantly, you can read this summer. Model it for them. So, hey, you know what, guys? We're going to take a 20-minute break. We're going to step away. I've got some things I need to read, not on the screen, most likely, even if it's your Kindle, but let's step away and we'll all take this time together, which is nice for a family event too. Second strategy, speak it in. You already are, you just don't really know it. So, oh, you know what? I get up every morning and I journal. Maybe that could be a new habit for you guys. Hey, I'm going to write the gratitude journal. Anything I can think of. Obviously, grocery store math, thinking about that. Oh, we're going to cook today. Use the ingredients. If you do take any road trips, I'd be really fascinated to see you calculate the price of gas. That's going to take some higher level math. I wasn't ready. I don't know about you guys, but I'm in Las Vegas and it's $5.20 a gallon right now. And so anytime I have to go to the pump, I'm a little scared, but you know, give them an allowance for the summer. Say, okay, you know what? So that things are making sense and that we're on the right track in the world we live in. Here you go. Here's $20 for the, again, I don't know what you would give them, but according to your budget, here's $20 this week. Figure out in your little envelope, figure out how you're going to manage it. So again, math is going to lose more ground than any other subject. So every time you can infuse it, it's going to be valuable. Doesn't have to look like school. There's all kinds of fun things that you probably already do as a parent. You know, whether we're camping in the living room under the thing or camping outside, you guys are in the springs and out there in Colorado where all those outdoor wonderful things are. Stargazing. I don't know whether there's too many better places besides Westcliff. You're going to travel. You're definitely going to more than likely do some community events and support other ways. And outings and adventures. I would love to see in the chat if any of you already have a field trip or a travel plan that you're going to be using. And I'd love to just use somebody's example and talk through it. So if you would, if you have a field trip or activity that you're thinking of this summer, pop it in the chat real quick and I'll try to teacher it up a little bit. Melanie, I see your question and will you circle back with me on that, please? I'll make myself a note so I don't forget because I'm not sure, but thank you for asking. Denver Children's Hospital. Great assessment. Excellent. Homeschooling, some days it's okay. Good. Reading forts. Yes. Oh, the reading, the book and the movie. I love that one. Backyard. Hawaii in April. Well, anything to do with flooding will be a really interesting, you know, geography and what has been impacted and how could we see pictures before and after. How are they dealing with the aftermath of the flooding, right? How does the world solve problems? Wonka play, Branson, okay, zoos, awesome. You guys look like you have got some really nice activities planned. And the whole thing I would have to train teachers is, hey, it's great to go on a field trip, but just add a little to it, right? If you are going to go to Branson, say, hey, you know, what would you want to see, right? And maybe they're not old enough, but here's what the Branson has to offer. Why don't you pick out 3 things that we know that we should go to? So now we're planning, organizing, executive functioning, and then have them debrief. This is what we did today. Draw a picture if they're young. Just that little added component really adds significant academic rigor to any of these fun, great activities that you guys have shared. So there are a few digital learning tools that most of you are probably aware of. I won't just tell you to get on them. I wanted to teach you and go through Prodigy with you tonight. That was one of my goals because I knew math was impacted. And when I went in to vet and go through Prodigy, it was so labor intensive for me to try to set it up and to try to organize it. And I said, no, that is not a helpful handoff plug and play strategy. But if you're already using it, I know kids love it. But for me, to whole setup felt like a full-time job. So I was not going to tell you guys to do that independently. Typing's huge, lots of free typing. Duolingo's free, fabulous, incredible learning. So there are some fun things, but setting the timer. Okay, we're going to do 20 minutes. There's your executive functioning. Set the timer. We're doing 20 minutes. Many kids with executive functioning and ADHD are what we call time blind. I happen to be guilty as charged. I really think that I can accomplish 4 things in 20 minutes. Well, it turns out that I am completely time blind about how long it takes me and how I should manage my time. So, simple trick, set a timer. And so lastly, before we head out on to break, is a couple years ago during the pandemic, I really did want to make sure that that summer mattered in an important way. It didn't have all of the specific academic skills, but I set up a 10-week summer survival guide. And it is here, and I am going to pop it in the chat for you because it's just fun. It talks about having fun and different themes that you can incorporate. And it looks like many of you may already have had a chance to do some of these things just naturally. So let me know if you can open the PDF, and I'll just walk you through it real quick. Okay. Kimberly says it's not a link. Okay, let's try again then. Thank you. That's why I asked again. There I am, not assuming. Do not assume. Oh, well, I gave you the link. La, 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 la. So let me download it as a PDF is what I think I did. And so it is embedded in your workbook. So let me guide you there to your workbook, and let's see if you can open it from that space. So I'm going to confirm that I am sharing my workbook. Here it is. And as I go through, check right there if you would. It is page 9. And let me know, yes or no, if that guide will come up for you. Well, thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. Well, no matter whether it had to go through the workbook or through the deck or through the chat, my goal was to make sure you had it if you wanted to. I'm going to give you lots of other activities, but I thought that having this just gives you a week-by-week theme, gives you some ideas, and can add to the planning that we do after the break. So I am glad that you got it. And I just want to remind you, you don't need to be a teacher, which I think all of you have already figured out, to be the greatest resource for your kids. You already are, and you're here, and we're going to work through some really great planning. Here's the big thing, right? You really only need to take a look. This is also, we're going to take some notes on this here in a second as well. In your workbook, there's actually a note-taking space. What's the skill that needs the most support right now? What's realistic? You know, are you working full time? If you are, how's that going to look? I mean, this is the time to really get in, put your sleeves, and just start the process. What are some of the tools and resources? And when will it happen? Remember, we talked about scheduling. That's going to be key. If it won't work at 7 o'clock in the morning, then don't do it. Something consistent that's going to work for your family will be really key for your success. So I did create these workbooks, and some of them AI could create beautifully after many attempts, and some of them not so much. So I would love for you to take just a couple of seconds right now and jot down some notes. And if it's not in that workbook online, then just do some little hand paper notes for these 4 questions. And I'll give us about 90 seconds to do that. Twenty seconds. So notice a couple things, you guys. I just did some executive functioning stuff with you, right? I set a timer. I closed my mouth. That's been the hardest one for me to learn because kids need think time. People need think time without me talking, and helped you manage your time. I usually give a warning. This is something you can do easy with your kids. Okay, we're going to go 5 minutes, whatever we're going to do, right? I'm going to give you a warning when we're halfway through. When I'm working with my tutoring students, if they don't have, I go, okay, how long do you think you're going to need? That's a nice trick too. All right, well, we're going to work on this activity. How long do you think you're going to need? That one is phenomenal. And if they don't have enough time, so what? I say, hey, you know what? Great job. Let's go ahead and go another minute, right? It's nothing in stone. It's just a matter of helping them become more aware and helping them have that agency to drive their own learning. So, what skill needs the most? What time? What tools? When will it happen? That's our first draft. We're probably going to make a few modifications as we go. And like I said, I've got a bunch of ideas for you. And so I want to start, before we dig into the menu and the bingo, I'm going to share some other ideas that you may be considering. It's a lot. And you are going to get the deck. But I want to get your brain going as fast as I know it already is. So we will come back to the summer learning menu. It is in your workbook. It is a link. But before we do, someone was asking somewhere in the chat, I think it was Melanie. This is so much content, I would never try to cover it. But I thought about, if I was a parent, what would I want, especially if I had multiple age children? So yes, I worked with AI and did some of this work, and this was one nice document that I was not going to leave out. So what I loved about it, and I demanded, it had to have reading, it had to have math, and it had to have executive functioning. And what I loved about was it categorized it into grade bands. So this is something that it even put on there to remind you to save this chart. You are going to get the deck. It will come at the end of the presentation. But just some quick, oh, you know, I hadn't really thought about that. You know what? maybe I could do a budget, etc., depending on the age or grade level of your student. So that was one. I love board games, dice, cards. Just a quick tip. The one thing we play all the time in tutoring is multiplication or addition war. You get half the deck, I get half the deck. We flip the card at the same time. If it's a 7 and a 6, oh, 13, or multiplication. It's great. It's fun. It keeps fact fluency going well. Jack, Queen, King usually are 10 and ace is a 1. Some of my students want to make it 11, 12, or 13. So just a quick, again, anything I can do to give you some ideas with the dice and cards can be really a lot of fun. As a literacy specialist, I don't have as many of those things to pull out to give you about math. And this little thing thought a balanced diet. I thought, well, isn't that cute? We have chef's choice. We're going to do an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert. So we could do 60 seconds. We could have a little appetizer. We could get on a little app for 60 seconds. Then I am going to talk about Khan Academy or Google, real word problems, Worksheet Lite, and then family game night. Those really count as learning a lot. And then again, like I said, Prodigy, but promise not to go too deep into these, but want you to know that there'll be resources you can also pull from. And well, what the heck? I want to work on the focus, follow through, executive functioning, Lori, but I don't really know what that looks like or what that means or how I should go about it. So here are some of those ideas about it. And when we get into our menu, they're going to be very specific things that will come in handy. So now it's time to get in to look at your bingo board. This is the beautiful version. And it is in your workbook. So I said, hey, this is what I would like. This is how I would like it. And it came up with the idea of picking from each of those 3 categories. What should you do? What could you do? And the key, you guys, is having your kid help you do it. You and your scholar need to plan and do the bingo boards together. Now, tonight, you may have to just draft, right? But it's got to be something they're going to do. You'll be able to reuse it at least for 4 weeks, because you can do regular bingo, you can do 4 corners bingo, you could do blackout bingo, you can do different types of bingo. Yes, I live in Las Vegas. I do not go play bingo, but there are many different ways for you to use one board. So having that ownership, that agency for students as well, but I loved having a sample. It wasn't enough for me though. I got mad. I go, no, math game, that's not enough. I want my parents to be able to plug and play. They do not have time to be thinking about, okay, well, what does that mean? And how can I do it? So AI and I went round and round, and I came up with very specifics. And so if you click on that link now, which you probably already did because you're students who love to do well. This is where I had mentioned perhaps this session might have been better to divide into different grade groups. But I worked it out. So let me make sure I'm on the right screen. I am. And this is what I put together for you. So we're going to get the bingo board out, or draft one on a piece of paper, or highlight the ones you like to copy and paste later. I mean, there's a million ways to go about it, but I knew we were going to have different age levels. So Rebecca, give me one of your kids' levels that you think really could benefit from some reading. 6 to 8, 9 to 12, K5.
6th through 8th.
6 to 8. Okay. So if you look down here, if you've never used these, I don't want to talk to you like you're dumb, but sometimes I don't know things I should know. So if I'm on the first tab of the summer learning menu, I have reading. So if I'm Rebecca, I'm saying, you know what? I think I'm going to highlight a couple of things here that I'll come back to put on the board. So I want to do a 3 to 5 sentence response to something they read in the graphic novel or the anime. I'm going to have them write what they learn after one of the things. This is going to go in these boxes.
Sorry, we're still looking at your Google Doc. We're not looking at the Excel sheet. I don't know if you're talking about that.
Thank you. I looked 3 times. That's why I need help. See, sometimes I don't know things I should already know. So thank you, Anna. Sometimes people have never let me know. And I'm like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me? So now can you confirm 2 things, guys? Number 1, am I on the right screen? Yay. And number 2, are you able to access this spreadsheet? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So here I am. I'm thinking about it. Me and my middle schooler, we're kind of looking through it, and we're going to put these 3 things on the board this first month. And you know what? I think you're doing really great. I think you're ready. I think you're ready for high school. Let's do a couple high school ones. You know what? I think we could annotate. And if you don't know what annotate means, then you tell them, hey, why don't you tell me what you think annotate means? Best way to learn anything is to teach it to somebody else. And kids are pretty schooled in the race strategy, so they probably would know this. And then you know what? Just to be safe, you know what? Let's pick one from over here too. Let's do a retell, because I loved doing retell when I was in elementary. And there we go. You get the gist, guys. I mean, again, I'm not trying to talk to you about this. I love doing this stuff. It's fun for me. So now I have some ideas that right now I could copy and paste, or I can wait. Down at the next tab, if you work your way over, and again, you probably already know this, but if I go to the map, I can do the same thing. And this is where I pushed it like, no, don't just tell me a math problem. Give me at least a prompt that can help this be easier. So instead of go to Khan Academy, here, instead of go to Khan Academy, what I have is watch a solve equations video and try to, right? It had to be digestible bites. I couldn't say do the whole unit. There's one, etc., etc. I think you guys understand where we're headed. Then focus and follow through. Really, it's the same for all ages. It just would be adjusted. That's the next tab, based on the age. And here's what I have to teach teachers all the time, because I coach them as well. Your child can pay attention about the extent of their age. So if they're 5, you got a good probably 4 minutes. If they're 8, maybe 7 or 8. It's true for you guys. Nobody can pay attention longer than 10 minutes. It's called brain-based learning. You need 10 minutes of information and then 2 minutes to do something with it. Take a note, etc. So I have kindergarten teachers who have students sitting on the carpet for 45 minutes, and then they are angry and yelling at these bad kindergarten kids because they won't pay attention. Said, well, ma'am, I think we might want to just restructure your carpet time. So just a little piece of information as you think about some of these and all of your summer learning, right? If I'm 6, I can probably read for 6 minutes, not 20. So picking a few of those that you see your scholar challenged, and if they're a little older, middle school and high school, I would ask them, well, honey, where do you see you tend to get a little stuck? And so having them take some ownership there. Last but not least is my messy version, in case you can't get the workbook one to work. So I figured, well, if they can't get it, what I would like to do right now is give you about 5 to 7 minutes to just play around and see if you can fill out one of these yourself with either the copy and paste or anything like that. Gotta grow to hate that sound, don't you? Usually means you gotta get up on the alarm. So, I'm gonna just call on a couple people to get your thoughts on this. Again, it didn't look as pretty as I wanted. However, it needed to be valuable. So I did mention or see somebody in the chat said, hey, I called my 10-year-old and we're talking through it. And that is just beautiful. I'm gonna call on a couple people just to get your thoughts on what was helpful or if there was anything confusing, because this was my first run on this. So Erica Selby, would you mind telling me what was helpful or if there was anything confusing?
Just got confused about the mute button. I'm sorry. I found it very helpful, all of it. I have a hard time. I homeschool, so we're kind of in our own rhythm, but we really, I get excited about one thing and then I don't stop and move on to the next thing. So those shifts are really hard for me, which I'm sure makes it more confusing for the kids. So I like having something here, just to kind of help us with. I love the bingo. I think that's an amazing thing for this summer. And I'm going to incorporate some of our own things, knowing that we're going to camp and stuff like that. So maybe they can help me with a packing list for camp and coming up with things to do while we're camping. So maybe a camping bingo. Yes. So
Great. And I'm so glad you brought up a couple really important points. Thank you so much. I don't like to cold call on people, but sometimes I just like to get a different perspective and, just scroll down. So use your own stuff. If you've got some great stuff or some things that because some of you already said, I have a plan. So use some of that. This was just a way to kind of get things kick-started and to give you a sample of what it would look like. And incorporate that vacation stuff. That is really smart. Talk about what you mentioned, Erica, here in a few minutes, that accountability piece, because I'm guilty as charged too. I get excited and then I get on a runaway train sometimes. So, Erica Palmer, could you tell me what was helpful or if there was anything confusing for this? She said, no, I am not interested. I'm going to win Kahoot though, and I'm proud of you for that. So no worries at all. Kimberly, were you able to get it open? Kimberly Bean, were you finally able to get it? Do you know where your unmute button is? Okay, well, that's all right too. No stress. This is not supposed to be like, oh, I'm calling on you, just stress out. Don't do it. Anna, could you tell me, at least because you have a wide range, oh my gosh, so you might need a couple of different bingo boards, but anyway, tell me what was helpful or if there was anything confusing.
I really thought it was helpful, but we're kind of struggling with the rhythm. So for the summer, I think it's really important to work on the executive functions and, for instance, like having a normal day schedule and then looking what could we incorporate from like the bingo, because I think some of those prompts are really helpful and fun.
Great. No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And then Anna Villazon, any feedback from you? And then we will move on, everybody. I'm so glad it's been thought-provoking, to say the least.
It's really helpful because I often get lost in I want to do it, but I don't know how. So it's the same as my kids say, like, I don't know what to do. It's like, I don't know how to do it. So this is really giving me a good head start. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you think you'll do a couple of different ones because you've got everything from young to old? You can have the high schoolers make their own. Right? They're ready. They're able. Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody. And again, old school practical is always nice. My students used to tease me all the time, like, God, miss, your stuff is so messy. I said, yeah, it works though. So, hey, I'm not going to spend 65 hours trying to make it beautiful. Let's get it done. So if you do have the time and you can print off and you're interested in printing off the beautiful things from your workbook, that is phenomenal. I encourage it. But In the meantime, I wanted you to have some real work time so that it would be practical and useful. So just like you guys said, okay, good. We're starting to think of a plan. Now, how are we going to make sure that we stick to it? Because that is the trick. And so I wanted to give you a couple ideas about scheduling. Earlier, we wrote some notes about, well, what time of day, how long, things like that. But, you know, here's something very simple. Remember, we also said to avoid the 2.5 months of learning loss, 20 minutes a day, 2 to 3 hours a week can really mitigate that. So do some morning reading, do a math activity, outdoor play counts for you too. Maybe you can go to an exercise class or you can play tag with your kids. And then let's have some dinner. Because when we talk over dinner, when we do those things, one of the most important skills our kids are going to need is the ability to communicate clearly. So it's a sample idea and a rhythm. 4 days of learning, 1 project day. Some of you said you've got the zoo and some really exciting projects. That could be the 1 day, Fun Friday or whatever day. And your kids can do that, but you can rest on Saturday and Sunday. But that structure needs to stay consistent, right? And I think you guys said that. So if our learning days are going to be Monday through Thursday, then that's really where we've got to stay in the zone or whatever that works, because that will help your kids with their executive functioning. How much time is enough? We don't know for sure, but what the guidelines show is a total 40 to 40 minutes a day in elementary, which kind of contradicts what that other slide said. 45 to 60 per day in middle school and 45 to 75 in high school. I think somewhere between the two is probably your best bet. Kids will need some content and some rigor, not just playing one math game. But keeping all of those skills working is going to be key. And you know your family and you know your child. If they have academic gaps, it will be important to go closer to these guidelines. But there are also some community resources that could be available as well. So I like to give you that. And then again, this is not beautiful, but it's useful. So I created a practical, useful version of your planning template. But in your workbook, it gives you and your kids a chance to work on your timing. Okay, well, it's Sunday. Here we go, guys. What's the week gonna, this is what you do as an adult, most of you. Okay, it's Sunday. Here's what we're gonna be doing. All right, let's fill in the boxes on what we're gonna do and when we're gonna do it. Just read, you know, can be R, M, whatever. The key that I want to point out to you guys that is most important is down here at the bottom. Have them set their goal for the week. I trained with one of the top researchers in education, Dr. Robert Marzano, and he did research about what things move the academic needle the most and what should teachers be doing. And it turns out that the #1 impactful behavior is for there to be a learning goal that's set and then revisited. So every time normally I do a training, I go, what's your goal for the session? Rate yourself. Are you a 4, 3, 2, or 1? Then when we're done at the end of the day, at the end of the week, all right, this was our learning goal. We have it posted. We know what it was. I didn't forget. And are you a 4, 3, 2, or 1 now? Really, almost a 30% gain in academics because it increases kids' metacognition. It helps them visually see and own what they're learning and why. So that is, I can't help it. I got to add it in there because it's so powerful. And then it has them take control of their schedule, which diminishes that whole fighting, choice and contrast. Well, what are you going to read? What math activity are you going to do? And if you want to do the themes, what themes should we take a look at? So that is in your workbook for sure and valuable. I am curious here. We started with this, didn't we? You have a plan. You need some help. Oh, that's almost like a learning goal. Look how I snuck it in. Or I'm not sure where to begin. So you started out one place, and where are you now? I would love to know, yes or no in the chat, if you have improved on the original plan. So I'm talking about 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Monthly plan, I love that. That's really great too. I try to make it smaller, more manageable. Improve. Yes, for sure. There will be some gaps and some things that I am going to close out with and talk a little bit about, but my goal was not to give you a compliance, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Oh, yeah, summer loss. Go to the, everything's fine. I can't do it, guys. I'm sorry. But here's the good news, right at the bottom, wherever you are, it's still the right place. So I snuck that in, even though you didn't know it. And the key for all of us is to track it. Because I am much like Erica, I will get over here and we do this and we do that. So every time I have to come back and check things off, it changes everything for me. So AI created the fancy version. This is it on the board. Did we meet our reading? Did we meet our math? Did we meet our EF on our bingo? Key component here. Was it easy, medium, or hard? I ask kids that all the time. And was there anything they wanted to add? That's the pretty version. If you need the old school version, oh, it's not going to want to open that one for me, is it? Well, I know the trick. And I will make sure you get it. Oh, no, I won't. It's giving me a fit. So I have a Google Doc that does provide you with a different version. And I will, when you are doing the survey, I will find it and get it in the chat. It's the same thing, but it's just something you could print out and use that's not exactly that. That is going to really do two things. Number one is it's going to be visual. It's going to help you kind of see, oh, you know, we didn't do an EF. Oh, we didn't do an EF again this week. And it helps see patterns and trends. But more importantly, guys, it helps celebrate. Hey, look at all we did. Because Dr. Marzano, the second thing he sees and knows with research is learning goals and scales is number one, and number two is celebrating success. So it's really important that that becomes a part of it. Like, oh, go here, check it off. Look at you. We got it done. And get that metacognition. Was it easy, medium, or hard? The other part I mentioned, and I think some of you even alluded to in the chat, the library's fantastic. I love Joy over there at the one over there, Pines Homeschool. She is so good. You've got coding camps, STEM camps, boys and girls clubs, different types of tutoring support with me or with other people or small group. Outschool, there's a million ways if that's something that you want to supplement. Learning light, flexible, family share, build that village. And no matter what, read daily, write weekly, practice math, and keep a routine. If you do those four, that's your minimum viable summer plan. I hope all of you just went, yeah, okay. That's quite exactly what I had it pictured in my head. So you've got to celebrate. You've got some really nice things coming up. And if you're still not sure about where exactly the skill deficits are or where you would want more information about executive functioning, I talked with Deborah and she said that, you know, because I partner with Parents Challenge, we could do some of the academic assessments with some of your funds if that's what you wanted, or executive functioning. So I'm also just happy to get on a call for 15 minutes and just touch base to say, hey, this sounds great. Have you thought of that? How can I be of help? So if you want to grab that QR code, please feel free to do so, but you're also going to have it in your workbook. And I think Parents Challenge has me listed as well. So I got a couple of spots left for summer, and I'd be more than happy to help you guys. I think that is all of the content add. And I'm going to put this form link in the chat. Let's see if that will work, because one of the things, I know you have to fill out a Parents Challenge one, but one thing that's really important to me is that I get feedback, because I don't want to do anything that's not going to be hopeful. And so I value these surveys a lot. And if you wouldn't mind taking a couple of minutes, that would be really great. And I'm still trying to pull it up. It's a picture of it. That's why I can't do it. I had to merge between 3 different documents, but I will get that here in a moment. But as I'm working through that and the weekly checklist, I would love to open it up for any questions or any comments. So any questions, comments, any kind of pieces of information that I can provide for you guys? See, that's what you do to your kids. How was school today? You ask this random, generic question. And so one of the things that's really important to do is to ask something specific. And I did it earlier, just do it naturally. So what was the most helpful part? What was the most confusing part? What was the best part of your day? That one really is a powerful one. And so I should have done that myself. See, I am putting.
I have a question about the consultation, the 15-minute consultation. If it's
Yes.
for a high school student, is that better for them to do it directly with you instead of having me in the middle? Or like, what is the age that you recommend?
That is a great question, and I'm really glad you asked. I'll just share the survey. If you do have a couple minutes while we're wrapping up today, guys, I would really appreciate the feedback. Whenever I get a tutoring client or anyone, the student's going to come to me for an assessment. Usually I talk to the parent first, just to kind of get a sense what's happening, what do I know, even if it is a high schooler. But as they mature, middle school, high school, for the consultation, I usually do both. So it's a great question, Anna. And so for a high school student, having them make sure, oh my goodness. All right, well, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. That's why I try my best, and sometimes it just doesn't work out the way I wanted. But I knew that. I told Rebecca and Anna, I said, there'll be about 10 mistakes today, because that's just the way it works. So no worries about that. Parents Challenge will share their information with me about the survey and things that you found helpful, or that, things that you might have felt different overall. And so if you were going to have a high school student, they get more buy-in anytime they have a voice and a choice. It sounds corny, but it's true. Anytime you give them a voice and a choice, you have a lot less resistance and you have a lot more engagement. And they sometimes don't even like it, Anna, because no one's ever asked them before. I asked them, Dina Tutor, I go, what was the best part? And they go, and then I go, well, hey, what do you want to work on next time? It takes them about 5 sessions to figure out, oh, I'm a part of this. Huh. And then some of the kids will take it and run with it. Well, I want to do fractions, and I want to do this, and I'm like, okay, I'll be prepared for you. So I'm going to make a note real quick, and then I'm going to hop in the chat, you guys. I will make sure you get the weekly checklist Lori version instead of the pretty version. So you can just print and check it if it's easier. And I will make sure you get the PowerPoint. See my executive functioning, because if I don't do it, you won't see it. And I am going to take a look in the chat, you guys.
I have a question. Is there like almost like those personality type questionnaires for that executive functioning that you can take that has like 25 or 30 questions on it, and then it'll actually expose like areas that need improvement on. I'm again, even as an adult, I think that there's a lot of disconnect there with that executive functioning in today's modern society. And I just asking that question because I think it'd be interesting to say, hey, be able to look at it and say, hey, these are some holes that are in my chemistry, my makeup, my character. These are some areas that I can work on even as an adult and improve on. So that's my question. Is there anything like that out there that you know of?
Great question. Thank you for asking. And yes, there are quite a few surveys. I'm sure you could just do a quick little executive functioning self-test or whatever. And there are many different tools out there. I think there's even what they call a strengths-based assessment that I use as part of my package because a lot of my high school kids need to know what are your strengths. But the one that I do, the reason I like it is because it will tell me what the gaps are and then tell me what to do about them with concrete, specific plans. So that's one of the reasons when I found this assessment, I said, oh my God, I have to use this as part of my package. But as an adult, you may not need that, right? Structure to know how to support or solve those kinds of challenges. I'm going to put it in here just in case. There's a magazine that I follow online. I'm going to put the name of it. I might get the thing wrong. It's Attitude Magazine. And they have quite a few checklists and things like that in there that may have an executive functioning for you. All right.
And
I'm not
Lori, I
familiar.
pasted the link to the survey, to your survey.
See, that's what preparation's all about, everybody. I had given them those links in the beginning just in case. So, hopefully, yes, Stacy, my dog loves to join in. He is quite a character. Do I support Take Flight for kids with ADHD and characteristics of dyslexia? I have worked with the program. I use Linda Mood Bell typically, but Angela, for a quick call, let's talk about what you're doing and if there's anything I can do to support or other little things I can help guide you to. I'm more than happy to because it is a good program. So however you got to it, Angela, great, because that's going to be really helpful. Doing the right things is a big deal. So thank you so much for spending time with me. We are, look at that, almost at 2 hours. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do have to say in the survey. If you want to say anything in the chat that was really helpful, I would love that. And I'm going to turn it back over to my colleagues, Rebecca and Anna, because I know you have a few business things to hang out and close up with, but I'll be here. I'll stick around for a few minutes after. Melanie, if you want to stick around and address that question you had earlier, and my friend with the writing question for a 9-year-old, if you want to stick around, I will also touch base with you for some ideas on that, okay? But in the meantime, thank you. I loved hanging out with you. I hope it was great, and all for you guys.
Thank you so much, Lori. That was such great information. One of my personal takeaways was the voice and choice. I think sometimes I put 98% of the responsibility of summer planning on myself. I have 3 children, and I think if I give them more voice and more choice, there'll be less pressure on me, and they'll actually enjoy their summer more. So thank you so much for that encouragement, and that's my big takeaway, and I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen this summer. I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. Families, please let's give another round of applause for Lori.